So, people are a little split on this. On September 25th, we will be getting the 8th Silent Hill game titled Silent Hill F. There has been some controversy surrounding this game, talking about whether or not this new Silent Hill game is the best place for the franchise to be moving, and there's no denying that Silent Hill F is a new change of pace for the franchise. And I mean, the change that they're doing is quite big too, so don't get me wrong. This is major changes that they're making. And the actual cultural impact that Silent Hill has on the horror world is actually quite big. After the first Silent Hill came out, it altered the world of horror gaming forever. And this was all due to its ingenuity. They tailored the hell out of this game to make it match the consoles it was confined in. One of my favorite Silent Hill facts that I've talked about a lot, especially on the horror podcast I do, Fear Talk Radio, is how the fog that was used in the first game was actually there just so they could hide the map rendering in front of you. This is now like one of the most iconic parts of Silent Hill, the fog. And a big question people have is, do we see this level of creativity and innovativeness now? Many say no, but before we get into it, let's discuss what Silent Hill F is and what Silent Hill F isn't. Before we hop in, feel free to hit that button below and subscribe for more horror content and deep dives into stuff like this. This new Silent Hill game differs from all the others in many ways, especially where it takes place. Every game before this has taken place in Maine, which is actually where Silent Hill, the fictional location, is based. This is the location for where everything's been, and it makes sense because that's what the games are called, Silent Hill. Silent Hill F will be taking place in a new fictional location in Japan, and I'm going to butcher the pronunciation, but hang with me. This new location is titled Ebisuagoka, and they're actually basing this location off of a real-life location in Japan called Jirajifu. This real location, Jirajifu, is pretty interesting because it's filled with alleyways and narrow corners, which is directly how they're making this new fictional location in Silent Hill F. The confusing and puzzle-like roads will lead to a really interesting setting for this to take place in. Aside from the ginormous change that they're doing and where this Silent Hill game is taking place, it's also placed in the 1960s. Japan in the 1960s was in the Showa era. This period in Japan is pretty interesting because it was both tumultuous and prosperous at the same time. At first, the Showa era saw Japan in its lead up to World War II, where there was a rise in militarism in the country. After World War II, Japan lost two major cities and was about to change drastically. America occupied Japan following the war and implemented many changes to the country. The post-war Showa era in Japan led to the country to add economic and foreign policy changes that would make Japan an economic superpower by 1955. This included a focus on increasing exports and creating a vast social safety net for its citizens. The period of 1955 to 1973 is called the Japanese economic miracle due to how prosperous the country was. So overall, this period in Japan's history is whenever they are up economically. Our main character is a high school student called Hinako Shimizu. Not much is known about Hinako yet, but if it's anything like other Silent Hill games, we do know that she's probably battling some internal trauma or trouble in her life. Much of the gameplay that's been released thus far actually shows Hinako fighting creatures that resemble her classmates and other dolls. Many of these monsters are segmented at different parts of their body, making them look even more doll-like. This is explained a bit on the Silent Hill F website that states that Hinako is struggling with the pressures of society from her friends and family. There might be other issues that Hinako is unwilling to let go of that the other world, which is like the strange, different world in Silent Hill, there might be specific issues that Hinako is trying to let go of that the other world is kind of pushing her to do. Silent Hill has never really shied away from the traumas and traumatic experiences that we deal with as kids, personifying itself in the games itself. In Silent Hill 1, there's a well-known area, which is basically the school, and you go through classrooms that are pretty much liminal spaces in a way. The creatures that you encounter in this area are titled mumblers, and they resemble school children. Fun fact is that they were actually supposed to be ghost kids, but in 1999 this wasn't really accepted, so they had to change them to this like sloth-like creature called a mumbler. So whenever you see these creatures in Silent Hill, you can already start to piece together a little bit of who Hinako is as a character, being that these are outward representations of what she's facing internally. There have been a couple theories theory circulating around the monsters in Silent Hill F. The game's trailer consistently shows red spider lilies. These are on the monsters and just around the city. They're prominent in Japanese culture for death and afterlife. People have compared flower to the name of the game, Silent Hill F, so they're saying that the red spider lilies might represent F standing for either flower or fungus. There are other flowers showcased, but the red spider lily is the most prominent one thus far. As I stated earlier, a lot of the creatures actually do have these flowers on them, which reminds me of the cordyceps virus from The Last of Us. And that's why people have drawn the comparison that F might stand for like fungus. I'm wondering if this story is going to deal with Hinako trying to move on from her past life, and maybe she's died and she's in this purgatory-like area. If you look at the start of the trailer too, it even says Hinako is dead. But later the trailer contradicts that statement by stating, the fact that you're alive means you've made it here, yet you're still lost at the same time. You can't think about it forever. You're running out of time to choose. And this is why I think that this points at Hinako being in a purgatory-like area. Her decisions here are going to decide whether or not she can go back to Earth or if she moves on to whatever afterlife Silent Hill has. Which then leads us to our next theory that we have on the flowers. People say that the flowers might represent a losing battle with a disease. The flowers are sprouting from dead bodies in the trailer, and this might show that Hinako is dealing with the loss of someone close to her, being that most of the monsters are actually her friends and family in these monster-like states. This would also explain why the trailer states that Hinako is alive, because she's the one having to confront the trauma that is happening to her. And then whenever the voice says that she's already dead, this could be like a predestination-esque statement stating that, hey, I know your decisions are going to lead to you making the wrong one, and this isn't going to end well for you. As you can tell, if you're jumping around with these theories, they become a little bit fuzzy because we know very little about what the actual story is going to be. There's so many new themes and ideas presented throughout this new Silent Hill F trailer and on the website that it makes it a bit confusing to figure out what Hinako is going to be dealing with. But something we do have a good bit of information on is the monsters. I spoke a bit earlier about the monsters that we saw in the demos and trailers for Silent Hill F, but the website actually shows off 4 of them and gives them each names. So I'm going to go through each of them super quickly and list off their name and what we think that they might represent for Hinako. The first monster is the Kashimashi, which is a mannequin-like doll creature that has cuts all over its body. Kashimashi in English translates to noisy and boisterous. This is actually taken from the Japanese phrase, when 3 women gather, it is noisy. This saying is pretty dated and obviously is out of touch with the times now. But if you look to 1960s Japan, this is kind of similar to the norms and societal expectations that were around during that time. People have also been theorizing that Hinako is going to have to deal with the societal pressures that a woman would have to face in 1960s Japan. So my prediction for this creature is that it's actually an embodiment of the societal norms that women had to face during the 1960s. The next creature that is listed is the Ayakashi. This monster is representative of Hinako's friends, as they are different versions of her friends in decayed states. The word Ayakashi translates to sea ghost and is known as vengeful spirits who died at sea. These creatures are said to try to catch others to join them. I believe that this creature could be a representation of Hinako's friends and the pressure that they put on her. The third creature is the O-Omoi. This is a doll-like creature that has a baby doll-like head all thrown together into one, which is terrifying. O-Omoi actually translates to come or let's go. This could represent a creature that attempts to lure Hinako into her doom. It could also relate to the main story beats that center around Hinako struggling to find her place and being forced to choose a path. And last but not least, our final creature is the Ara Aber, which is a huge flower creature. This is obviously going to be like one of the brutes that you fight in the game. Under all the flowers and whatnot are flesh, which makes this creature really visually odd and disgusting to look at. And I'm going to directly quote a user from the Silent Hill Lovers Facebook group on this creature. Jeff Erson on the Silent Hill Lovers Facebook group states that a bear in Japanese means to act or fight violently, get angry, and have a fit. But it is also a term used in fighting games to refer to a negative frame advantage or performing a risky maneuver. Ara means oh, and is commonly used in ara ara, meant to mean oh my god, or oh wow. So this creature seems as though it's going to be one of the main like fighting creatures that we have to deal with in the game, which does lead us to the controversy surrounding Silent Hill F. So let's talk about it. Why are people actually mad at this game? Well, as we've discussed before, this Silent Hill game is veering off in another direction from all the others that preceded it. For one, entirely new location. 2, all new creatures, brand new setting. I mean, let's even think back to the Silent Hill release right before this one, and I'm not talking about Silent Hill 2 Remake. The newest Silent Hill release that is like a brand new title in the franchise was the demo, PT. This was released in 2014. This was just a demo, but it was so promising. There was so much to dive into regarding this demo and the lore surrounding it. Quite honestly, it looks more realistic than most horror titles we have today. PT also does so much with so little. You're placed in one location that is changing ever so slightly every time you pass through it. For anyone who doesn't know, PT was the first horror game to do the looping through one location as it changes horror trope that we see in games all the time these days. I bring this up because Silent Hill F is the next new title in the franchise, and it's so distinctively different from PT, which was loved. I think a lot of people were thinking that PT was going to be where the franchise was going, this ultra hyper realistic feel, and I don't think Silent Hill is that. A lot of people say that Silent Hill F is not breaking boundaries. I'm not stating this. I'm actually quite excited to play this game, but people are stating that it doesn't have the groundbreaking qualities that PT did. Around the internet, people are also relating the combat style to being Souls-like. Souls-like games are a genre of video games that rely on dodging and linear combat. It's called Souls-like because it's based off of the Dark Souls franchise, which did it first. With Soul-like titles such as Elden Ring being huge right now, people are saying that Silent Hill F is just hopping on the bandwagon and trying to get some of that Souls-like clout. To play devil's advocate here, I do think that there is a good reason that Silent Hill F has Souls-like combat. Hinako is a school kid and doesn't have trained fighting experience, and there's no guns in 1960s Japan. And for those of you who would say just don't add combat in, I think that's bad too, because how many times have you been playing a horror game where you can't fight back and you see a brick on the ground and you just want to throw it at the creature, but you're not allowed to? I think it's pretty realistic to have a fighting system in the game, and since we have a character who is struggling to fight these creatures, Souls-like combat makes the most sense, being that it's very challenging. Many people are also relating it to Resident Evil 6, stating that they're just using the Souls-like combat as a gimmick to get people in. Resident Evil 6 is widely known as the wake-up call for Capcom. Their previous titles before that, Resident Evil 4 and Resident Evil 5, were very successful, but they also relied heavily on combat, and Capcom took this the wrong way. They thought that the combat was what made Resident Evil what it was. People hated this, and I completely understand. Combat isn't what makes a game. As a kid, I played Resident Evil 4 and Resident Evil 5 multiple times. I pre-ordered Resident Evil 6, and whenever I got it, I was thoroughly disappointed. I couldn't even complete the game because the action and the storyline was like so bad. But let's look back to Silent Hill F. It's pretty evident from the trailer and the demos alone that this game is not ditching the horror for the action. I mean, the trailer even ends with Hinako getting her face skinned off, which that's pretty horrific. And then let's look over to the Silent Hill 2 remake, which I don't think anyone can argue is not combat heavy, but it's widely loved as a great Silent Hill remake. And I get a lot of the criticism with the melee combat not looking good yet, but everyone who has played it has said that the melee combat feels really nice. So we really just have to wait until we get to play it for ourselves and give it a fair shake. Overall, I do think any game does need fair criticism, and I think Silent Hill F is definitely getting that right now. I actually really do believe in this game, and I think all the positive and negative reception really leads to some interesting discussions about it. But I sit on the side of I think people are getting a little too worked up over nothing. I'm quite excited for this new change of pace for the series. So what do you think? Do you think Silent Hill is going in a wrong direction with this new Souls-like combat? Or do you think that this is a new, fresh idea that the franchise needs? I for sure feel like this is going to be amazing, and I cannot wait to play it. But with all that on Silent Hill F, I will say, please give it a fair shake. I think it deserves it. And that's going to be it for today. Please leave a like if you like, sub if you're not, and go watch a horror movie.